Hello YouTube, this is Reno Dan. I'm going to make a quick video on what I look for when I buy a used motorcycle to help you guys out if you're going to buy a used motorcycle in this upcoming spring. So one of the things I look for first is the chain. I want to make sure the chain is in good working order. It's not kinked or damaged. This chain looks pretty good, a little dirty, but this is my last track day. I didn't clean it up. Over here looks pretty good. I check chain slack, make sure that there's enough chain slack. On a street bike, it needs to move at least half an inch. On a race bike, a little more than that because you're pushing the boundaries of your suspension. I also look for the sprocket and the counter sprocket to make sure that the edges are sharp. As you can see right here, the edges are very sharp, and that means that this has been aligned properly and everything looks good and very good health. The next thing I look for is swing arm. Make sure there's no damage on the swing arm. This swing arm looks really good, no frame damage. This bike doesn't look like it's been in a crash, or it looks like it's been well maintained. The next thing I look for is any leaks. Again, I haven't touched this bike in about 6 months, and there's no leaks. There's no leaks on the wood, which means that the engine right here is sealed nice and tight. On to the tires. One of the things you want to look on tires is how much tread wear is left and the conditions of the tires. If the tires are cracked, obviously they're going to have to be replaced, and that's between $200 to $300 investment. So you should knock the guy down who's selling the bike at least by that much money, because you're going to have to get tires right away. Also, every tire has a birth date on it. You want to make sure that the birth date on the tire isn't older than 5 years, because even if the outside looks good, the inside can be very bad. So that's very important to make sure that the tires are within at least 5 years old, and they're not like these tires that need to be replaced soon that are kind of beat up. Now, on to the next thing I look for. We're going on to the clutch lever. Does the clutch lever move easily? This one does, right? What I mean easily is does it take a lot of effort to push in? You can adjust it too, but if it kinks or if it doesn't feel smooth, something's wrong with the lever, and again, that's going to require some mechanic to fix it. Another thing I look for, which is super important, is the fork tubes themselves. Is there any fork oil? I haven't messed with these. I haven't cleaned these. These fork tubes look nice and shiny. Perfect. If you see pitting in the chrome, or if you see oil leaking, or if you compress the forks and they start leaking oil, you have a problem. So let me see if I can compress forks by holding onto the phone. Hold on. A little bit. Let me see. God, these things are stiff. Let me try. There we go. So I compress the forks because the guy can watch a video and like, oh, I'm going to clean them up. No fork oil or nothing. Everything looks good. The forks are fantastic. So I'm going to walk around here to the other side of the bike. Just give me a second. Again, I'm looking at this side of the swing arm. I'm looking at the condition of the rotor. The rotor looks good. I want to make sure that everything looks good mechanically. I'm looking for any off-colorization or any like cracks or anything that doesn't look right. A rotor should be round and it should look good. Another thing I'm looking for too, I'm looking for the brake lever. This brake lever is perfect. It's nice and firm, comes to a complete stop, has a good brake feel to it. That lever right there is magnificent. Check the oil, the brake fluid, sorry. You want to make sure that there's no leaks, and you want to make sure there is brake fluid, because sometimes people don't know. The lever is the telltale, because if the lever doesn't come to a stop, or you can push it and it compresses all the way in and it doesn't feel like there's any like resistance and spongy, that means there's air in the line and that's going to have to be replaced. Another thing you want to look for too is actual leaks. If there's any leaks around the master brake cylinder, that means that's going to have to get replaced or rebuilt. In my case, replaced. Another thing you want to look for is the condition of the, again, you're looking for leaks. You want to make sure there's no leaks around here. Some brake fluid. You want to make sure everything's nice and tight. There's no leaks. Everything is working well. Again, pressing the brake lever can tell that story too. You're looking at the rotor. This rotor look right here looks in great shape. No damage to it, no anything like that. You can also tell when you roll a bike too how it feels. Next, I'm going to go into the next, probably the most important thing is how a bike runs. So I haven't started my bike here in about, I don't know, 6 months. Alright, it's loud. Alright, that looks good. So I was looking for right there was to see if there's any like smoke, like any blue smoke, or if it's burning oil, or any type of like condensation in the engine. I was checking things out. The engine looks good. Now I'm going to let it see how my bike idles. My bike right now is idling really good. For not being ran for 6 months, it's running really well. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to rev it up. Alright, so she looks really good. See how the needle, how the RPMs are going up and down. Everything looks good. The engine feels strong. I'm going to let her run for a little bit. Again, no smoke out the back. Sorry, it's really loud. I have a race bike. Race bikes are loud. Alright, shutting her off. Okay, so she's running fantastic. You can tell that she idles well, that she revs well. This bike is a good sounding motorcycle. The last thing you want to check too, I know this video is longer than I expected to be, but it is what it is. The last thing you want to check is you want to make sure that the bike goes into gear. I know this bike goes into gear because it's my bike, but you want to make sure that without having the bike on, you can shift it all the way through 1 through 6. You want to make sure there's no hitches in the shifting. And once you do that, you can confirm that the bike is in pretty good shape. Also too, after running the bike, I want to again check to see if there's any oil leaks. I just ran the bike, revved it up, no leaks. This is a mechanically sound motorcycle. Now when you're test riding a motorcycle, that's a different story. That'll be a different video. Again, these are the type of things that I look for. The rear shock, of course, but that's a little bit harder to check out than the front forks because it's built differently. Usually on the front forks, you'll know if there's a problem, if the seals are nicked, if it's leaking oil. Don't do it because that's like another $600 or $700 to have them rebuilt and redone, and you're going to be buying a bike that's going to have mechanical issues that you're going to have to fix right now. Unless you're getting a smoking deal on it, I would avoid it. Everything else, I mean, that's pretty much what I look for in a bike. Handlebar placement and all that stuff right there could be changed. You're just looking to see if there's any major damages. Like there's no damage on the engine case. Everything looks pretty good. This bike looks really pristine. That's about it. And that's all you're looking for. Again, you're making sure there's no leaks in the radiator. There's no leaks when you ran the bike. You want to make sure that there's nothing leaking that can get onto the tires to cause you slippage. The main thing is safety. And when you're riding motorcycles, your safety is very important. Even the PSI in the tires, I would definitely, if you're looking at a used bike that's probably sat in the garage for 6 months or a year, bring a tire gauge. Because last time I helped my buddy buy a bike, we knocked down the price down by about $400 or $500 because it needed tires, it needed this. The PSI was off about 10 to 15 PSI front and rear. And the owner was like, how'd you know that? Well, one, I race motorcycles, so I know what it feels like. But B, even if the tires look like they're inflated, like these right here look like they're inflated, and you can feel them, if they're big enough, you may not know how off they are. Even 2 or 3 PSI can change the handling of a bike. So bring a tire gauge, not a cheap one, but a good one, and make sure that they have the right PSI cold before you start test riding the bike. Because you might get out there and it's not going to run right, and then you might have an accident, and if you drop the bike, then you're going to have to buy the bike. Alright, I think that concludes everything on what I look for in a motorcycle. So I'm going to recap real quick. So I look at chain, I make sure that the clutch lever is smooth. I make sure that the brake lever has resistance and it comes to a stop. It's not like real spongy. That's probably a video in itself. I make sure the rotors are not damaged. I make sure that nothing's leaking is the main thing, like fork fluid, oil, radiator fluid, anything like that is very important for your safety. I look at how a bike idles. If the bike idles well, I know at least it's tuned semi-properly. I know if it can rev up and come down the RPMs. If it hesitates revving, then something's wrong with it. Either if it's carbureted, it's jetted wrong. If it's fuel injected, maybe the injectors are dirty. Something's wrong mechanically that can create you have to go to a mechanic to have it looked at. It's not just go buy and ride. So this bike right here is a go buy and ride bike. You can buy this and go race it tomorrow. Clean it up a little bit, but it's ready to race. Some bikes on Craigslist are not ready to be bought and raced or bought and ride. You know, they say they are, but when you look at it, they're not. Another last piece of information I can give you on buying a bike on Craigslist is registration. If the bike hasn't been registered in a couple years, it's going to be a headache because like anything like buying a car or a motorcycle, the back registration is going to drive up the price. Again, another negotiation price. And if the tires are bad, $300 off for tires. If the chain and sprocket's bad, $300 off for that. If the brake lever's leaking, that's another at least $100 to $200 off for that. If the forks are leaking, that's $700 right there minimum, because you're going to have to rebuild the forks, the whole shebang, and maybe even get new fork tubes if they're pitted or if they're damaged. My fork tubes are a perfect example of nice and shiny, so you don't have to worry about it. I think I have to put in the description below what you can knock off on things. Again, those are what I would look for, and that's what I would negotiate with. Any type of oil leak, if it's leaking around any type of the casing over here, just walk away. That means in the engine case is damaged and it's not worth your time unless you're an awesome mechanic. Again, if you're watching this video, you're probably not a mechanic, so you're probably looking at how you can buy a bike without getting ripped off, and this is the way. Again, I'm sorry for the long video. I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. You guys have a nice day. Good luck on your purchases. If you have any questions, let me know. But I think that wraps up what I look for when I buy a used motorcycle, and I bought about, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them. Pretty awesome. Thanks. Have a nice day.